Today, this is the Nimrod Tag. I first saw this on Shawn the Book Maniac's channel, and he's the one who tagged me. And the minute I saw the title, I'm like, oh, I got to do that one. And it was originated by Matthew at Mayberry Bookclub. And I'm going to double check if it's Mayberry Bookclub or Mayberry Books, but I will link his original video in the description box below. So the name Nimrod comes from a biblical warrior in the book of Genesis, and he was a grandson of Noah. He became a revered warrior and leader who was instrumental and kind of a overseer, leader, architect of the Tower of Babel. Eventually, according to scripture, he rebelled against God and was not found in favor, let's put it that way. But the name Nimrod now it comes to mean, you know, when you call someone a Nimrod, you're basically calling them an idiot. And how did that happen? That happened thanks to Looney Tunes, who did a cartoon sketch on Elmer Fudd being Nimrod, because I guess they equated warrior with hunter, and so it became the name of a biblical warrior and leader to Elmer Fudd, the slapstick hunter. I don't know. Hi Booktube, it's Kim at K Becker's Books, and we're outside because I just recently got a really nice deck umbrella that we set up yesterday, and it was nice and sunny and cool, and now it's just cloudy, but I'm still sitting under the deck umbrella and thought this would be a good change of scenery. So today I'm bringing you the Nimrod Tag, and I'm gonna look over to the side. I have my laptop out here with the questions on it. So let's get going. The first prompt is books that made you feel stupid. I think I read this at the end of last year, and I talked about it at that point. It's selected poems by Gwendolyn Brooks, who is the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, a winner of the Pulitzer Prize. I am not typically a poetry aficionado, but I have liked selected collections and selected poets. And I thought, I'm going to try this because of who she was. I read the whole Slim collection and I felt like an idiot. I was just trying to make sense of it. There were some poems that I felt were amazing and beautiful and poetic, but for the most part, I think her writing just went above and beyond me. It's gorgeous writing. She's an amazing poet. I just felt completely stupid. And anything by Shakespeare. I'm not a Shakespeare fan. I've read a bunch of stuff a long time ago. I read Macbeth, Othello, Hamlet, seen a few of the plays and the movies, and I'm not a fan, and I don't pretend to understand his writing without some deep dive analysis. So yeah. Prompt number 2, books you wanted to love but couldn't. Right off the bat is the fact that this one was everywhere on Booktube, and the fact that I didn't want to miss out and wanted to be part of the conversation, and the fact that it's over 1,000 pages, and the fact that it rambles and rambles and rambles. This is beloved of so many booktubers. I wanted to love it. I tried it. I got about 50 pages and gave up because I could not stand the format and the writing style. When I pick up a novel, I expect the novel to act like a novel, even if the writing is experimental or speculative or whatever genre it is. This did not read like a novel to me. This read more like a bunch of collected rambling essays of her thoughts, and I have too many of my own taking up space in my head, and I actually felt a little claustrophobic reading Duck's Newburyport. The other one, which was a huge disappointment, is Margaret Atwood's The Testaments. I ran out and bought this book. It possibly was the day it came out. So I was at Barnes & Noble, like waiting, and ran to the table where this was all set up in piles and started to read it immediately and was grossly disappointed. I wanted to love it. Wanted to love it because I love The Handmaid's Tale so much. And this, to me, it was the wrong voice, the wrong settings, bad writing, bad characterizations. And this is Margaret Atwood. She is a master, but this book was a horrible disappointment for me. And the last one, which is another Booktube darling, is The Night Circus. I read this years ago for book group and reread it at the end of last year and really disliked it. I don't think it's terrible. So many people love this book of all ages and personalities, and I just didn't. It was very creative, very different, but it just didn't pull it together for me. Prompt number 3, books you wanted to hate but couldn't. Let me reach a little bit. I read this one years ago. Let me see. This was published back in 1995, so this is a 25-year-old book. Look at, there's a map right in the front on the end papers. When they put maps on end papers and they put something of artistic value on the end papers, I usually love the book. And I kind of wanted to hate this one because of all the hype that it got. This is Gregory Maguire's Wicked. We all know the story of Wicked. We all know what happened to this book and the Broadway show and the music, and we all know that. I love this book, and I didn't want to, because when a book is so hyped, I tend to shy away from it. I don't want to be part of the hype, but I really loved it, and I read a few of his other books and have all the subsequent novels that come after this one to continue the story of Wicked. The other one, don't kill me, don't hate me, is the Twilight series. Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. I know what you're gonna say, and I've read all the commentary. I've read all of the bad press, good press, average press. There's some value in reading for pure escapism. There is so much commentary on the series from a feminist, anti-feminist point of view, from the machine that has become, or that Stephanie Meyer has become, the themes, the so negative themes in here regarding women and relationships and all the tropes. But honestly, I kind of wanted to hate it, but I only picked it up because my daughter begged me to read the books. I think it was the third book was already out, and she's like, Mom, please read these. I want somebody to talk about these with. And so I started and blew through them twice. And then it became an event for her and me that we started to go to the movies and waited in line at midnight for the first DVD, the Twilight DVD, to come out. So for my daughter and me, it was a bonding experience. It was super fun. And we read it purely for superficial value. We didn't read very much into the themes and the meanings, but yeah, not embarrassed. And quite honestly, I could say the same thing about the entire Harry Potter series. It was when the first book came out, my oldest daughter was young. She wasn't even, I don't think she was even 10 yet. And her grandmother started buying her the books, and I had no idea what they were. And it wasn't until the third book, The Prisoner of Azkaban, that she said, Mom, I love these books. These are so good. And it's a whole series. And I shy away from series to begin with. But I did pick up Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and as shall we say, the rest is history. I love everything about the franchise, and I don't care. No shame. Let's see. Number 4, books you no longer enjoy. This is hilarious because back in my early 20s, when I was young, single, and carefree and had a crap ton of disposable income, I used to buy Danielle Steele books in hardcover when they first came out, and I collected them. I think I must have had at least 20 of her hardcover books, and I would keep going back into her backlist and finding used copies, and I always collected the hardcovers. I read so many that I think I drowned in Danielle Steele version of romance and eventually just got sick off of it. And I don't remember the title of the one I read, but the last book I read had a rape theme in the book, and it turned into a romance. And I said, that's it. I'm done. All done. prompt number 5, books that won you over on rereading. I didn't need to be won over on this one, but The Handmaid's Tale, I first read it when it came out in 1985, and really enjoyed it. And then I reread it twice last year, and right now I think this is a brilliant story. It's a brilliant novel. It did not need anything to come after it, aka the Testaments, and I loved it on reread, and I will probably reread it again in my lifetime somewhere. The next one is, I started to read it and I probably got a third of the way through, and I put it aside because I'm like, I'm not really interested, and this is a little convoluted. But then we read it for book group several years ago, and this is Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. I've since read the first 5 books in the series. I absolutely love this one. This is the first one. Again, it's tropey and kind of predictable. It's a fantasy time travel style romance, but I absolutely love it. I love the story. I enjoyed reading this so much. Pure escape. There's some history and some complicated storylines in here, which I really valued, and quite honestly learned something from this. So I think I'm part of the way through the 5th book, which I think is The Fiery Cross, and really want to pick it back up again. And yes, I did watch part of the series on Netflix, Hulu, I forget. Stars. Let's see. Oh, and the other one, I don't have a copy with me, but it's Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I read it many, many, many years ago, and we reread it for book group again years ago. And this is the thing with classics that are assigned to you in high school or younger, is that you don't appreciate the themes and the things in the story in the book, and you don't honestly often pick up what the book is really saying to you. And when I read it as an adult, I picked up on so much of the commentary on society in general, on groups, on fight or flight, on mob mentality, what happened to these children and what the children chose to do when they had to form their own government and form their own society, and then how they changed when the adults came back into the picture. It was an amazing book, and upon rereading it many years after it was assigned in high school, have so much more appreciation for it. Let's see, prompt number 6, books you love by a writer you dislike as a person. I was talking about this with Shawn the Book Maniac as well, but one of my favorite authors from from decades ago is John Irving, and one of my favorite all-time books is The World According to Garp, of which I probably read 6 times, and I'm not a big rereader. I think we might have read this for book group, I don't remember, but I absolutely love this book. One of my other favorites of his is A Prayer for Owen Meany, both of which have been made into movies. Several of his books have been made into movies, but he's kind of an asshole. He's not the nicest guy, and I've read online that he's a fairly I don't know what the word is. He's a womanizer, and he's arrogant as hell and just a jerk. So he's also, you can tell that sometimes by reading a lot of his books. There's quite a few twisted sexual themes through many of his novels. Some really funky storylines and characters. I love the style of his books. I love the way the narratives play out. But he's kind of a big giant jerk. So prompt number 7, books you dislike by a writer you like as a person. I don't often read books from people that I like as a person, and I don't honestly know what authors are like in their personal lives before I pick up a book. It's not something that I look into when I start to read a novel, or when a novel or nonfiction book interests me. It's not until I read a book, and especially if I enjoy it, that I look into the author's life story. One of my favorites, this is not the prompt, but one of my favorites was Laura Hillenbrand, who wrote Seabiscuit and Unbroken. And her story is remarkable, and she's got a serious chronic illness and managed to write some amazing nonfiction books during and after that. Books that I disliked by a writer that I like as a person, one of them is Allie Smith. I loved Autumn, which was the first in her seasonal quartet. And then I tried to read Winter, and I just could not it just did not agree with me, and I could not get into it. I also read, she has a short story collection called Public Library. I started to read it, got halfway through, thought I was going to DNF it, and kept thinking about the stories I had read, so I picked it back up and I did finish the collection, but I didn't love it. And after I tried to read Winter, I realized I'm not getting on with Allie Smith's writing style, and much of her, even the short story collection compared to her seasonal novels, very similar writing style. I just don't enjoy it. But I really admire her as a person. And the other one is Arundhati Roy. She is an Indian author. She's a very active activist, and she is an incredibly politically outspoken woman, which I greatly admire, and I love reading about the things that she's doing in a public way, in the public theater, I guess you could say. The first book of hers, she only has 2 novels, I think. The first book I actually read of hers was her latest, which is The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. I didn't actually love this book, but it was remarkable to me the way she wrote the story. There's an enormous amount of political content in here. Unless you're familiar with Indian politics and Pakistani politics, some of it went over my head quite a bit, and I would have benefited from doing a little bit of research. But I really loved the story, and it has stuck with me for, I think I read it maybe 2 years ago. So I would definitely pick that one up and reread it. Her other novel was her first one, The God of Small Things, which I absolutely hated. Read the whole thing, got to the end, and was disgusted with the ending. I didn't think the way she ended the storyline needed to happen that way. I didn't love the story going through. I love books set in India, and I liked her writing style, but the content of the story just, I thought was blech. So, and the last prompt, which is prompt number 8, is books you still want to love one day. I don't read books and then hope I will go back and like them. However, there's plenty of books I haven't read yet that I'm either have been delaying reading because I'm afraid I'm not going to like them, or I'm going to actually hate the reading experience. But one book that I hope to read this year, and there is another booktuber or two that I had noticed was loosely discussing doing a read-along, but this is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I really do want to read this. This particular copy means a lot to me because this is actually my mother's old copy. My mom passed away. It'll be 6 years in September. And she was not a big reader, but she had a few books in her possession, no more than 10. And she actually loved James Patterson books and John Grisham and stuff like that. But she had a couple of classics, and this particular copy was one of them. She always wanted to read Moby Dick, and she never did before she passed away. So I, of course, took a couple of her books that she owned, and I really want to read this year because it's a bucket list book for me. I really hope I like it. I'm a little scared of it because of the content, and I just, we'll see, but I hope to get to it this year. Those are all the prompts, and thanks Shawn for tagging me. This was fun to pull out all these books and kind of think about them again. Let me know if you've read any of them, if you want to discuss any of the books I brought up, anything I said about any of the books, as long as you're not going to skewer me over Twilight. I've said this so many times in other videos. So yeah, we all hate and love the books that we hate and love, and everybody gets their own opinion and everybody gets their own thoughts, and they get to like what they like. So let's just leave it at that, I guess. Hope you're doing well. Hope to read some of your comments and start a good conversation in there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.